Welcome to the Brew Crew Review Podcast, the show by fans for fans of your Milwaukee Brewers.
Okay, Brewer fans and Brew Crew Review listeners, welcome to another episode of our podcast. My name is Craig, and joining me today is Vince Trovato. How's it going, Vince?
Hey, it's going great, Craig. Do we have Scotty on? I think he was trying to get on, or Chad?
They're not really technically inclined apparently, but they could pop in here at any point. So hopefully that'll be a little treat for our listeners.
Yeah.
So again, not sure when you listeners are listening to this, but we're taping this on the afternoon of Wednesday, September 13th. The Brewers have 18 games left in the season. The Cubs, who are trailing them 4 games in the standings for the NL Central crown, have 16 games left. So just what is your confidence level, Vince, before I throw out some numbers, and the Brewers taking the NL Central at this point?
That's a good question. I know that our last podcast, you asked me my confidence level in the Brewers making the postseason, which I pegged at 90% at that point, and that's over a week ago now. Obviously, the division's a little tighter than the wild card race, but I would say that our chances, boy, I hate to put odds on it. I'd say above 80%. Let's say a 3% chance of winning the division. I'm not a Vegas guy, so I don't really know how, but I do think that we've got a very good chance of winning the National League Central at this point. I've always maintained that the Brewers are the better team than the Cubs this season. Obviously we still have our offensive question marks. I just think that our starting rotation in our bullpen put us in a much better position than the Cubs to win the division. So I think our chances are very good.
Yeah, I agree. I think mine's now after a week or whatever since our last podcast. I think that since we've maintained and actually gained a couple games in the NL Central race here, I actually feel the Brewers have about a 90% chance to run away with the division title now, just because with that many games left. Let's just say the Brewers don't have the best 2 weeks. I still feel that they'd be a 500 or above. So let's just say they go 9-9. If they were to do that, and the Cubs 18 or 16 games left, because we have 2 more games in the Cubs, just how the schedule played out, they would have to go 12-4 just to tie us. Assuming they were to do that, they probably would win the season series against us, because they probably need to win at least 2 of the 3 games that we end the season with against Cubs at AmFam Field. So still, I think that's way too tall a task for the Cubs to do in a 16-game stretch to win 12 of the 16 games. Now, there's obviously other scenarios that the Brewers could go well under 500 and that leave an opening for the Cubs with our pitching and our improved hitting. I just don't see that as a possibility. So anything can happen, but I'm pretty confident that we're going to be NL Central champs and therefore hosting wild card series first week in October. That's pretty exciting. Again, nothing's set in stone. There's still lots of games to be played, and hopefully we can. Obviously we have some big games here against the Marlins still coming up, and this weekend at home against the Nationals. I feel we're going to have advantages in all those games. But let's just speak real quickly about the amazing performances the last week of the Brewers' Big Three, and we'll go back starting. Okay, the Brewers were on the cusp of sweeping the Yankees for the first time since 1972 in New York. Unfortunately, we ended up losing the game Sunday, but let's talk a little bit about, let's spend a little bit of this podcast talking about Burns' performance on Sunday and just overall that game against the Yankees. And then we'll go to Woodruff's complete game shutout against the Marlins on Monday. And then Peralta's amazing game yesterday against the Marlins, and also his amazing second half of the season. So let's start with Sunday in New York. What were your observations? We each got to see a little bit of that game. It was a historic game by a lot of measures, but unfortunately the Brewers came up on the short end of the stick.
Yeah, so we had the first couple innings on the radio. We had a errand to run, unfortunately, on the other side of Houston, and so we were listening to the game though on the radio, and we got back home in maybe the 4th inning. So we had plans later in the afternoon to go somewhere, and we got so hooked on the game that without even me having to ask, and obviously I wasn't going to go anywhere once the 7th inning was on, but without even having to ask, Lena was like, hey, yeah, we got to stay and watch this game. So we ended up both sitting there and watching every pitch for the remainder of the game. I know that, Brewer fans, of course, we were all disappointed in the outcome. But to throw a 10-inning no-hitter in Yankee Stadium, going for the sweep, that amazing catch with Sal Frelick and Joey Weimer in right field, outside of the outcome, which I know our co-host Scott in our pre-production meeting was kind of making fun of the Brewers because we still lost the game. But that truly, outside of the outcome, was one of the most exciting baseball games I've ever seen in my life. I mean, it was just awesome. This back and forth, offense going back and forth in the extra inning component of this game was one thing, and that's exciting enough. But to take a hitter through 10, just great. I mean, there was drama with every pitch. There was great defense. There was everything that you could ask for in a baseball game outside of us getting the actual W. It was just incredible. And at least we still took the series. I wish we would have won the game. I would, because we would have at this point have now having won 2 games against Miami and 2 games before that in New York. We would be on 5-game winning streak at this point. But it was just awesome. Everything except the end result.
Yeah, so for the Brewer fans that didn't get the chance to tune in and really find out, Corbin Burns went 8 innings of no-hit baseball at Yankee Stadium. He was at 109 pitches going into the bottom of the 9th. Unfortunately, the Brewers had not scored up till that point. So even if they had finished off the 9-inning no-hitter, the game would not have been over. It would have gone to 10. So I think that, and the fact that I think he might have tweaked his ankle or something, like he did get pulled for the bottom of the 9th. Devin Williams came in. He pitched a hitless 9th inning. And then even though the Brewers unfortunately then failed to score in the top of the 10th, even with the runner starting on second. And the bottom of the 10th, Abner Uribe also had a clean inning with no hits, just a 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. And the bottom of the 10th, so the Brewers had actually gone through 10 whole innings with a combined no-hitter, which is pretty incredible. In fact, no team in Major League Baseball had ever thrown a combined 11-inning no-hitter. It was completely unheard of in baseball history. We're talking about. So yeah, I was pretty jazzed.
Or any type of no-hit. I mean, combined one. It was like anything at all. And yeah, I mean, we were going through baseball history there.
Yeah. So unfortunately, once again, the Brewers not scoring the top of the 11th. And so you go to the bottom of the 11th, and I'm actually thinking with the runner starting on second, the Brewers could have a historic 11-inning no-hitter and possibly even lose this game. I mean, without a hit. Unfortunately, Orlando Cabrera of the Yankees broke up the no-hitter in the bottom 11th when Yoel Payamps gave up that hit, and also the run. And I should back that. The Brewers did score on the top of the 11, so we were actually going to win the game and throw the no-hitter at the bottom of that inning. But anyway, didn't happen. They tied the game. Brewers scored 2 on the top of the 12th. Unfortunately, Andrew Chafin gave up a 2-run homer to Stanton in the bottom of the 12th and tie it up. And then the Brewers ultimately lost the bottom of 13. But anyway, it was a near historic game. And unfortunately, Brewers came up on the short end of the stick. We did win the series in New York, 2 out of 3 games. However, anyway, it was a pretty exciting game and unfortunate outcome. That brought us back home to AmFam Field on Monday night, September 11th, and the Brewers offense came to life after being not so well on that Sunday, but 12 runs on the board, September 11th, Monday at home, and Brandon Woodruff with a complete game shutout, the first one in 2 years for the Brewers since Adrian Hauser did it in 2021. That's really good to see him coming off the injury list for a good portion of the season and really getting amped up and ready for the playoffs. And you can see a guy like him, a workhorse starter, go 9 innings, that he's ready for the postseason. So that's, as a Brewer fan, there's nothing better than to see that.
Yeah, I mean, everything was exciting, and I think it does bear repeating. It is worthwhile to remember that the Brewers did win the first 2 games at Yankee Stadium. So despite that game on Sunday being a disappointment in its final result, we still came back. We had a road trip where we went 500 on the trip, but a little disappointing series in Pittsburgh for sure, going 1-2 out there. But I was very happy with the way that the team played in New York. Obviously, this isn't the Yankees of old with their current roster issues and just issues generally. But it is still the Yankees, and we're still on the road. So I was really glad that we were able to at least win the series out there.
Absolutely. Very cool to see. And then the third game of our big 3 that I want to point out, Fred Peralta just last night, which was Tuesday, September 12th, Pitched a heck of a game, 7 innings, 9 strikeouts, only 1 run, and which was a leadoff home run to lead off the game, actually. And beyond that, he settled in, and he's had an unbelievable second half, really ace-like. He'd pretty much be the ace of almost any other team, or at least 26 of the leagues in the team in the league or whatever. So with that being said, and I'm even looking at the ticker as we're taping this, and then the Cubs are playing afternoon tilt against the Rockies, have 3-0 lead, and they've blown that already, so it's 3-3. So again, the confidence just keeps rising here. I really feel that it's my hopes and my actually thoughts that 3-game series to end the season against the Cubs will already have the division wrapped up, and that series will be a huge series for the Cubs, not for us, to the fact that they'll be still battling for a wild card spot. But we'll see. So basically, it's really done. The Phillies look like a shoe-in for the top wild card spot, even at this point. But it looks like for the last 2 wild card spots, it's going to be a 4-team race between the Cubs, the Marlins, the Reds, and the Giants. Really, so 2 of those 4 teams are going to probably make wild cards, and the other 2 are not. So hopefully, the Cubs are the one of the 2 teams that are not, and hopefully we can aid to that. But anyway, so really, it's exciting to me. I noticed that just today, the Brewers, for whatever reason, are starting Tyler McGill today, and also have Adrian Hauser coming back off the IL tomorrow to start tomorrow afternoon's game against the Marlins. So what that does,
Right.
I figured this out, that the Brewers have actually already lined up so that their big 3, starting with Burns, followed by Woodruff and Peralta, are set to go for the first 3 games of what would be wild card playoff. So I think that they're gonna get regular pitching up until that point. But and anything could happen injury wise or whatnot. But I really feel the Brewers have already have enough confidence that they're lining up the rotation so that happens, and that our horses are ready to go to win a very pivotal wild card, hopefully, match, with all 3 games being at AmFam Field. So hopefully I can be in attendance at some of those. I know you might be busy some of those days, Vince, but I'm sure you'll be watching from afar. So.
Yeah, I will be. Yeah, I'm getting married the first week of the playoffs, so there is that. But we'll still be tuning in. We try to time the wedding so that the games would be going on after the wedding is actually concluded. So, we weren't going to miss Brewery's playoff game just for a wedding. So we will be paying attention.
And I don't mean to give you crap or whatever, but I actually think, I'm not sure how Major League Baseball is going to schedule, because there's going to be 4 wild card series, 3-game series all happening at the same time. So I'm not sure
I know,
they're
Craig,
all going to be night games. There's probably going to be some afternoon games, but I'm sure the Brewers are one of the biggest draws, and I'm sure they'll get the nighttime slot, so you shouldn't have to worry too much.
No, I'm just kidding. I obviously, I can't schedule around that. We are we are aware, though, that it is a playoff baseball week, and we will, I'm sure, be able to tune in some way, shape, or form. So don't send any spoiler texts. That you'd be there if we were having friends at the wedding. So I will be keeping my phone at a distance. So if the Brewers are playing, since I know that you'll be texting me spoiler alerts, so we will not be responding then to the game. Just so you know.
And I would like to say that there's a small chance the Brewers can actually still get a first-round bye if they were to catch the Dodgers for the second best division winner record. But they're currently, I think, like 6.5, 7 games behind the Dodgers for that spot. There's just not enough time to make up that much ground. So unfortunately, it looks like it's a shoe-in that the Braves and the NL will be the number 1 seed, and the number 2 seed is the Dodgers. Now, the thing that gets me really excited about this playoffs is not only are we going to have those first 3 games at home, most likely, but beyond that series, if we do advance, obviously as a number 3 seed, we'd be playing the Dodgers, the number 2 seed. The Dodgers, in my opinion, have a very weakened rotation right now. First of all, it's been announced Walker Buehler will not be coming back this season from injury, which is huge. Also, Julio Urias has had his locker cleaned out and name tag take off because he was just unfortunately caught on tape having a domestic violence incident, and basically the Dodgers are done with him, supposedly. So he's out. And then you've got Clayton Kershaw, good old reliable. Well, he's dealing with various ailments and is little bit injury prone right now. So they obviously have some nice young pitchers led by like Bobby Miller and Emmett Sheehan or whatever. But I mean, overall, Ryan Pepiot, I should mention. But I mean, these guys are going to be pretty green compared to our, cagey veterans. And so I really feel now, flip side of that, their offense is unbelievably better than ours. Obviously, they got Mookie Betts, Max Muncy, Will Smith. I forgot Freddie Freeman, and even JD Martinez. The top
the
five
Dodgers have a really good team, Craig. Like they're super solid. So I would not be taking the Dodgers too lightly.
Yeah, with that being said, I think our starters and our bullpen is vastly superior, and therefore I feel that in a 5-game series we'd have an advantage against them. So assuming we could get, by the wild card round, I think we can get by the Dodgers, which will probably lead us into a 7-game series in the NLCS against the Braves potentially. However, the Braves might have to also get by the Phillies, who knocked them off. The Phillies are the reigning NL champions and did knock out the Braves of the playoffs last year. So that's a distinct possibility. They're division rivals. They have good pitching, unbelievable hitting themselves. And so, not saying that I want to pick my poison, but if that were in that scenario where the Phillies knocked them out, the Brewers would actually go back to having home field advantage for the National League Championship Series. And again, this is all dreaming, but at this point of the season, as we hit the pennant race, that's what we're doing. So I'm just trying to lay out the possible path to the World Series in the NL for the Brewers. And I feel that when I really map it out, that I think the Brewers have a real good chance if they stay on this course. Obviously, the number one thing is they're really healthy right now. Their starting pitching is healthy. Well, with the one caveat, one of our best hitters, Christian Yelich, has had some back flare-ups, but I think that he's been given rest now this week so that he can get over that issue as we head toward the playoffs. But outside of that,
I really love your optimism this year, Craig. You're more optimistic this year than any year I've ever probably experienced with you. And we've been friends since 2001 or so. So that's awesome. I'm not quite there yet. No, I still think this team I don't want to be the wet blanket, but there's a lot of offensive holes on this team. I don't think that we're that. Just to play devil's advocate, I don't think that we necessarily have the offensive depth. I think that our bench is pretty weak. Maybe can help that a little bit. He's started off well his first 2 Brewers games. I just don't know that this team is currently constructed has the offensive firepower that we're going to need in the postseason. We do definitely have the pitching, so there's that. So that's a huge plus, and that is a definite strength over a lot of these other teams. I just, I really think that there's still some gaping holes. That I hope that we can, course correct a little bit. If we are, maybe we're hitting our stride at the right time, kind of like the 2019 Nationals did, and kind of like the even the 2021 Braves did. Teams that were really good that. But not maybe the best teams in the league that got hot though at the right time. So there's definitely that aspect of it. So maybe you're right. I don't know. It obviously remains to be seen. My biggest problem is just how we fared against the Dodgers and the Braves on the season series. So that's my biggest concern is just we have not looked good against those 2 teams. And it seems like when we play those better teams in the National League, something happens. We aren't able to play our best baseball. So. But who knows? I mean, anything can happen in October.
Well, I mean, obviously, in some of those series, and I remember distinctly actually attending a game against the Braves where Colin Ray started. I feel that we didn't necessarily have our best pitching forward at that time, or even hitting it when we faced them. But I mean,
but the Braves could say the same thing too, because they had starters that were going those series that they wouldn't have in the postseason. I'm just saying that.
No, you're absolutely right. They're both the Dodgers and the Braves, the Braves in particular have probably one of the historically great offenses this year, historically good.
Yeah.
I mean, they've got the best hitter, not of this season, but probably of their generation, and Ronald Acuna at the top of their lineup, who's on pace for a 40 home run, 80 steal season, which is just freaking ridiculous. Then they've got Matt Olson, who's about to break their single season. The Braves single season, he just tied it with 51 home run record. That's more home runs ever hit in one season by Hank Aaron, Eddie Matthews, Dale Murphy, or Andrew Jones. So, in fact, he just tied Andrew Jones 51.
So anybody,
So that's a pretty good company to pass. So they've got him, obviously Ozzie Albies, up and down the lineup. They're just pretty stacked. Even the former Brewer Orlando Arcia is having one heck of a year at the plate. So, I mean, they're really good. I mean, there's no doubt about that. But with that being said, I just don't think any historically good playoff teams do well with top of the rotation pitching. And I feel that our top three starters best. It's like going into a poker game with and again, this is where the phrase comes from, but basically having three aces in your hand. You know that you've got this to play, and they're going to trump the other cards that are going to be played by their teams. Now, obviously, there's a little bit more goes into it with the hitting involved, but I mean, I really just feel that, especially as you saw what they did this week, what they're capable of. I mean, you're talking about Burns, 8 no-hit innings. You're talking about a complete game shutout by Brandon Woodruff and Freddie Peralta, who'd probably get the second half Cy Young in the NL if they were such an award. So, I mean, how can you not be excited about this team in the top of the rotation? And then you've got good old Wade Miley, the magician, there, probably be available for a fourth game, and even Adrian Hauser coming back to health. I mean, this team is ready. Obviously, I think that we have some major question marks on the offensive side, but some of these veterans like Canna has been doing great. Carlos Santana. So, I mean, I really feel, and the big pickup that happened since our last podcast was Josh Donaldson. I know I was a little bit against that, but you never know. He was a former MVP of the league in the AL, I think in 2015. And he's obviously aged, and he's 37 years old now, and his skills are degrading, but he's still got plenty of pop in his bat. And he could just get hot at the right time and be an unbelievable addition to a lineup that's in desperately need of some offense. So we'll see.
Yeah, hey, that sounds great. I'm hoping that your scenario happens. Obviously, we're rooting for it for sure. I'm a little more skeptical, as I said, but I'm gonna just cap that a little bit right now and just join in the excitement, because anything can happen, and we can analyze it in the off season and kind of see what actually transpires. So no,
obviously the flip side of my optimism.
I'm really hoping for your scenario to unfold.
Well, and again, I'm just kind of mapping out a path to the World Series, and it seems like I really like the possible path that we have if we stay on this trajectory. Obviously, the flip side of my scenario is we could tank the last 18 games of the season big time. The Cubs could catch us. We could lose the first 2 games of wild card and be sitting already in the off season. So, all this optimism go out the window fairly quickly, but that happens to any team in the playoffs. So, I don't know. I just feel like there's just something about it that just makes me feel like, hey guys, it's the Brewers' turn for once. And again, we could have a stronger team next year. Those are nothing like that's guaranteed though. So I really feel like we've got to run with this opportunity that's presented in front of us, with the Cardinals having a terrible year, and a lot of the the other NL contenders outside the Braves and the Dodgers. I feel like that we're better than. So we'll see. Before I wrap up this podcast, I guess I did want to mention one other big piece of news that happened this week, and that's former Brewers president of baseball operations, David Stearns, has been hired as the president of baseball operations of the New York Mets. And again, this is something as Brewer fans we've seen coming for a while. That's why I want to congratulate him. Part of me was like, whenever we lose David Stearns, I'm going to be really sad, or it's going to suck. But I just don't feel that way at this time. I mean, he did, but I do want to give him tons of kudos for the fact that he did build a winning team. I mean, for each time that he was president of baseball operations, we really improved greatly to the point where we made the playoffs 4 straight years. And if you're going to count this year, it'd be 5 out of 6 years, if hopefully, knock on wood, that happens. And really, he was the architect to the structure of this team. So you've got to give him plenty of kudos. And he obviously, in my opinion, was one of the best general managers in Brewer baseball history for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. Just his track record speaks for itself. The team obviously playing in a different era, the late 70s, early Brewers teams did, but the team was successful enough to make the postseason a number of years during his tenure. He got hired in 2015, and the team made the playoffs in 18, 19, 20, and 22. So, I mean, that's in 21. It's 4 years during his tenure that the team was able to go to the postseason, and obviously fell short of winning world championship. But I still think that as far as Brewers GMs go, he certainly ranks very highly. I think that he's also, and what I give him the most credit for is that he was able to build some organizational structure to have some permanent continuance. I think that you're seeing that already this season with Matt Arnold. Even though Arnold's his own man and he's his own GM, I still think that some of the things that David Stern's implemented have kind of, trickled down through the rest of the organization. So you're seeing, his hand, so to speak, still all over the product on the field, not only this year, but we'll still see it in the years to come, as long as Matt Arnold is here, and who knows who takes over for him someday. So you're going to continue to see that throughout Brewers history, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so we wish him the best, but unfortunately, he's still going to NL team, so we don't wish him too well. But I really think that the Mets are going to benefit from having him. I mean, if you look at the Mets owner, Steve Cohen, and the fact that he threw a ton of money at free agents in the last year or two, really building what was supposed to be like a pretty much a contending team, they're missing out on the playoffs this year. And so sometimes when you have a guru like David Stern in the organization, and that can build up and the depth of the organization and through the draft and through free agent pickups or whatnot, that's just as valuable as an owner that can just toss tons of money at valuable free agents. Obviously, it'd be nice to have a mix of both, and I think the Mets will probably have that going forward. So they're going to be formidable once David Stearns gets his footprint on that organization. So best of luck to him, I guess, and will be finally remembered for his time with the Brewers. But I think the Brewers are in good hands here without him moving forward, and let's hope that this year or next is one of the Brewers' magical seasons, because I really feel like our window is this year next, and after that we'll see what happens. So, all right, Vince. Well, thanks for your time today on the podcast, and really excited. Obviously, going as we're sitting here middle of September. Pennant races are heating up across the league, and the Brewers are in the midst of a good one. And just as another little smile on everyone's face as we're taping this, the Rockies have now taken a 5-3 lead over the Cubs. And I just feel that the Brewers magic, you'll have to start watching the Brewers magic number to the division title, because I think it'll be dwindling quickly here in the next week or so, which will be exciting. So,
that's exciting, Craig. And you know what? Before we wrap up, I did just get a text from our anonymous source, Tom Carter. He says, there are problems in the Cubs clubhouse. Chemistry issues continue. ... Don't tell anyone that it's me. Sincerely, Tom Carter.
Oh, wow, that's some good inside information from TC again. We're only supposed to be calling him by his initials, or he said he could use the information without even giving any type of credit, but we like to give credit where credit is due. So.
You know what? He is putting that into a follow-up text here. He goes, please, again, do not use my name, Tom Carter. Just say, you don't even say T Carter or Tom C. Just don't mention anything other than the information. So that's from Tom in Greenfield, Tom Carter in Greenfield.
All right. I want to thank one of our number one listeners, Alex, for tuning in once again. And we're looking forward to some playoff baseball. So let's root on the Brewers and get to that point here as we finish up September. So, all right, well, stay classy, Wisconsin, and go Brewers.
Go Brewers.